Hey David, how you doing?
Hi, Vanessa. Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Hey, good to
I've,
see everyone.
it's good to see you too. And it's incredible. It's day 14 of the Job Reset Fest. And we've already covered a lot of ground. And hopefully with that, a lot of learning, a lot of sharing, and a lot of getting closer to the levels of confidence and just changing this, the levels of confidence and connectedness that we need to. It's not just about being employed, although clearly for a lot of people that's a primary objective. It's about I guess being on purpose and creating a life of thriving based on one's goals and aspirations. And there's so much creativity that we're going to get to be exposed to this evening. And I guess that's the title, Job Hunting with Creativity. And the title kind of sets the scene for what the session is going to share. And I guess it's also could be a metaphor for life, is doing things with creativity. And for many years, I believed I wasn't creative. And then when I realized that everybody is creative, you don't have to be a painter or an author or a musician or a comedian. Clearly, you can be those as well. But one can be into whatever one wants to do with one's life and things that gives us purpose and fulfillment and be creative with it. So just as a way of kind of connecting, if you put into the chat, the invitation is tell us where, and for this exercise, there's no there's no COVID restrictions, so you can fly or row a boat or drive a car wherever you want in the world. And you may so put into the chat somewhere your ultimate holiday destination to a place that you've never been before. So let's just see what kind of places and environments people share. There, Maldives and Seychelles. Well, there you go. Lots of sunshine and white beaches already. And
We need some
let's
sunshine in Joburg, so I think anyone in
yeah, for
Joburg is
sure.
going to mention that.
I believe you guys have had an enormous amount of rain. I'm talking to you guys from Cape Town, so we've it's been hot and windy,
Oh,
and
really?
very very unwet. So
No.
the
No,
the the
up here I'm going with the whole like getting web feet kind of step
yeah,
next.
I
It's
believe it.
almost been 2 weeks of solid rain up here. So, yeah.
Well, good. Send us some, please. We're in the middle of a dry, windy summer, which is not unusual for Cape Town. So, without further ado, I just saw Deborah just said that she was struggling with
Yeah.
connectivity. So let's roll, and we'll just see how that is. And if connectivity is a challenge for Deborah, then we'll just improvise and do what we need to do. So, without further ado, it is really a great pleasure for us at Henley to share the next hour with Vanessa and Deborah, both very, very experienced HR professionals, but it goes way beyond that. It's not just about recruitment. It's about bringing creativity, bringing humanity, bringing the person into recruitment as opposed to just filling a role and giving somebody a job title, which I hope will resonate with our audience this evening, because we're all human beings. We all want to belong. We all want to add value, be taken seriously, and contribute as much as we receive. So Vanessa and Deborah are going to share some amazing insights with us. And if you hang around, you're going to have the good fortune of getting access to their ebook as well, which will give you a whole bunch of insights to refer back to after the session. So Vanessa, Deborah, thanks so much for your time. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much,
it.
David.
I just want to check that my sidekick is here. Deb, I know we can't see you because you're having connectivity issues, but let's check we can hear you.
I'm hoping that you can hear me. I am a real person.
Good, good. I like that.
Yes,
That's
I'm
a
not an
competitive
AI voice.
Yeah, that's good. A real person is a competitive advantage these days.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
These
Especially
days
one with soft
of
skills.
automation, completely. Apparently, I just lack some technical skills. So for the folks who don't know, my family and I are in the process of relocating to the UK. and we have sold up everything, and we are in limbo, staying at an Airbnb, waiting for a visa. And things are just very, very up in the air, and a lot that I can't control. And even though I'm sitting right next to the Wi-Fi, and it shows that there's full signal, the minute I try and turn on my video, it is a problem, and the whole show just drops. So I apologize profusely. I think this is perhaps a bit of a lesson in being agile and adaptable and just rolling with things. And, you know, we can't always get exactly what we want, but we try our best. So I just want to say before we start, I just want to thank Vanessa. When Carmen and the folks from Henley contacted me to actually present this masterclass, the first thing that I did, and I believe that it's one of my leadership strengths, is collaboration and knowing when I'm not the only authority or necessarily the best person to do something. So I just want to thank Vanessa, because without having much context, I just said to her, listen, I've been asked to do a thing for Henley, and I think I need your help from a recruitment perspective. Are you in? And yes, she is. So I'm really, really thankful for that. And I'm really thankful for everyone who's here today. Van is driving, thank heavens. She's got the presentation. And we're going to talk you through this. And just, you know, as a little bit of context as well, we've actually cut quite a bit of content out of what we were going to talk about today, because we figured that we'd like to leave some time for questions and to really add as much value as we possibly can. So Van,
and just
if you're
on
ready,
that, yeah, I'm ready. We've got our first slide up, but I just want to say, you know, you're more than welcome to ask questions as we go through. It's quite nice to keep it a little bit conversational. So without any further ado, Debs, thanks for the invite to join you. I'm sorry we can't see your pretty face, but let's have a look and see what we're going to be discussing. So Deb, am I presuming that you can't see the presentation either if we can't see you?
No, I can see. No, I can see the presentation.
Brilliant.
Like everything works.
Good. Just checking, because else that could be a challenge.
Right. So what we're going to do for everyone who's on this masterclass this evening is we're going to really cover three main aspects for you. The first one being global trends and some local context. Because I work very much in the future of work, future of HR space, and Vanessa works in the SourceCon community and the future of recruitment and talent acquisition, you know, we're part of global communities. We know some stuff, we see some things happening, and we can very much give you some insights in terms of what is happening globally, what we're tracking, what we're seeing. And sometimes it takes a couple of months for those things to manifest in South Africa, but they always do. So we're going to give you some insights into those things. Then we're going to take you through your personal journey in terms of getting you to a place where you can really hit that reset button and rejuvenate your job search and your career. And we're going to end off then with some practical tips and advice that is going to help you to actually reset your career. And we'll then take your questions.
Awesome. Sounds good, Deb. I look forward to going and starting with our first topic of global trends and a local context of what's happening in the market, because I know I've got some exciting things to share.
Fantastic. Yes, so our first slide up here that Van has so kindly shared for us is this, you know, the screen that I think has dominated all of our lives this past year, which is really that we've, you know, learned to migrate from being co-located to actually working on Zoom all the time, on Teams. We're not seeing our friends. And obviously this is a global trend, but how it's manifesting in South Africa, and for you as, you know, a leader who might be looking to hire talent, and also as someone who might be looking to grow your career, the important thing to bear in mind with this trend specifically around remote working is the rise of flexible working, more project-based work. So we're seeing a lot of companies, instead of hiring permanent employees and paying massive benefits packages and all kinds of things, they're tapping into a global talent market. So that's very much changed the game in terms of the so-called war for talent. You can now be making a meaningful impact from, you know, we saw folks on this call from Cuba, from the Seychelles, from Bali, from Cape Town, from Johannesburg. You can be part of a team. And I think the thing that I'd like to invite you to kind of have a bit of a mindset shift around is the fact that the world of work has changed, and we're moving more towards remote work, flexible work, hybrid working models, project-based work, interim and executive assignments, where you literally are going to be earning a lot of money for doing work that other people can't or won't do. And it's going to mess with your confidence a little bit, I know, because I've been doing it for a while. And it's going to be scary because chances are you might have been raised like me to find a good job and earn a good salary. But you can find a good job and earn a good salary. It's just not going to look the way that it used to with our parents, where you started a company and you work there for 30 years and then you retire. So that's really the first trend, and the first invitation that I would like to extend to you is to start thinking differently and to start looking at different opportunities besides just old school full-time employment. And in our ebook, I've shared a ton of resources with you in terms of freelance portals and places where you can sign up, and marketplaces where you can actually find these opportunities globally for yourself. If we move on to the next trend that I just like to touch on this evening for all of us, please, Van. The next trend, obviously, and I think all of us sitting at home and trying to homeschool and, you know, just survive, not murdering our partners, is the real importance of mental health and wellness at work. So the challenge there, if you're a job seeker, obviously, maybe you've lost your job, you've been laid off. I know that this, you know, it really messes with your confidence. And Vanessa is going to talk a little bit later about it. As a recruiter, you know, Vanessa sees this. It shows when you're interviewing, when you've lost some of your, you know, when you've lost some of your pizzazz, you know, just the stuff that makes you you. There is also an opportunity, however, if you are entrepreneurial and you are a business leader, number one, to introduce more wellness at work and mental health initiatives. And number two, there's an opportunity to start consulting, teaching, training in, you know, the service industry relating to mental health at work. So that might be something that you might want to consider as you hit that reset button for yourself. The next trend that we've been seeing, which for me personally is somewhat disconcerting, is we've seen a global surge in the need for inclusion, equity, diversity, belonging. So obviously trying to include people from diverse backgrounds, you know, genders, sexual orientation, gender identity, all of those things. Unfortunately, what is kind of snookering all of us right now, and we're seeing it especially in the US and the UK, where folks are keeping, you know, great data on all of this, is that we're seeing, as much as we've made all of this progress with women at work, is that we are seeing women leaving the workforce, which is really, really very sad to see. Women are leaving the workforce because they're going to take care of ailing relatives, they're having to homeschool children, their employers are not really amenable, you know, to them working more flexible hours so that they can take care of their families and actually do their work. So again, if you are a hiring manager, please be, you know, be cognizant of this and take this into account. And if you're a job seeker or you're entrepreneurial, you might want to look at opportunities for working moms. There's some amazing part-time roles out there, companies like Recruit My Mom, Hire My Mom, that specifically cater to working women to try and keep them in the workforce, but give them the flexibility to actually be at home with their families. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, there might be an opportunity for you to start a business helping moms to stay in the workforce. So whether that is running errands, transporting kids, whether it is meal prep, tutoring, teaching, anything like that, you might actually be able to make a very big impact in a very short space of time. And then the final one that I'd like to share with you, obviously, as we all know, is the rise of automation. And this has really led to a lot of fear amongst a lot of people. But simultaneously, of course, there's the opportunity for the rise of so-called new tech jobs, new jobs. We've also seen with the drive towards digital transformation and enabling people to work from anywhere, we've seen a rise in the need for project management skills, agile, any kind of agile skills, scrum masters, change managers. So many organizations globally are actually embarking on digital transformation journeys, replacing old on-premise solutions with cloud-based solutions, having to deploy that, having to change the way that people work and interact, and just their general way of being at work. So there's an opportunity for you if you want to upskill yourself, or maybe look at a potential new career path, to really start looking at agile methodology, becoming a scrum master, a PM, getting into the human side of change management. There's a lot of opportunities there from the digital transformation space, for sure. And then I'd like to actually ask Vanessa, because she's got her ear to the ground a lot more than I do in terms of recruitment, specifically in South Africa, how she's actually seeing these impacts unfolding in the South African and the African job market context.
So just to talk to this slide, and thanks for that, Deb, that was really informative, is that the biggest problem that actually South African companies faced when everyone needed to start working from home was the fact that, were we ready from a technology or a digital perspective? And data is always the biggest issue, because data is at a premium in the African continent, where we know if we've traveled overseas, we've been to the US, we've been to Europe, you can pick up free Wi-Fi anywhere you pretty much walk down the street. So also massive gaps in the market for helping people to get their businesses online really quickly, more efficiently, and actually trying to get the majority of the workforce better access to better quality data, which enables them to work from home. I think one of the biggest issues was that, people who couldn't work from home, people who, struggling with bandwidth. I mean, even in my house, the struggle for bandwidth has been real. There's so many people at home trying to do online schooling, sit in meetings. I'm trying to train online. And I think that if anyone can put their heads together and solve this problem, we're going to go, they'll go far, trust me. But I just want to talk about what's happening from a South African context. And here we've got a great picture of a South African savanna here. So what David was talking about earlier with regards to our creativity, one of my hobbies is photography, which helps me to work on the creativity side. So what I want to talk about here is what's happening in the South African market. So we know last year, it was difficult. There was a lot of people laid off. Terrible for anyone working in the recruitment industry. I heard stats recently that 40% of recruitment agencies closed down. There was a lot of streamlining happening in internal talent acquisition teams, because that really wasn't the focus for businesses. Businesses were literally treading water, trying to keep their heads above water. And a lot of budgets that were set aside for salaries and those kind of things had to be moved around in order to keep the business operational. But I must tell you, there's been a complete turnaround in 2021. Every single company that I'm talking to, from either a corporate with their own internal recruitment teams and recruitment agencies, have just said it's like chalk and cheese. Moving into 2021, there's now a massive demand. But obviously the demand is in certain areas. And what we saw last year was that there was a dip in the demand for tech talent. There really was. But what has come out strongly in 2021 is that certain sectors hiring is at full tilt. One of them being the tech space. Another one that's really picking up is the finance and insurance space. And another area that has really picked up is the supply chain, trying to get goods all over the countryside. So unfortunately, your likes of the travel and the tourism industry, not any movement happening there, but I'm hoping with us, changing our lockdown status this week, that is going to change. I think certain industries are going to take longer, but with the people who are on the call, I mean, a lot of you have MBAs, and what we're hearing from the market is that MBAs are still as much, if not more, in demand, because the feeling is that people with MBAs can think differently, they understand business better, and this is something that businesses are looking for because everyone wants to be doing things differently. I agree with what Debbie said. I think Africa might take a little bit longer to embrace it, but the gig economy is becoming a real thing. I work like that as well. I go in as almost like a sniper movement, as a subject matter expert. I go in and assist companies from a global perspective. And when the project's done, I move and I go on to the next project. So kind of not left in that whole support and maintenance phase. So what does this mean for you? It means the market's picking up, which is excellent. And I'm hoping to see this actually filtering down to obviously the industries that are in demand, but to everyone really, really soon. So basically what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're ready for this, because looking for a job is actually a full-time job within itself. So what I suggest we do, and I know that we're going to be going on to personal branding in a little bit, but start thinking about your personal brand. You know, it's not always about just having a CV these days that you can kind of email off. A lot of people are applying for jobs on LinkedIn. I'm hearing a lot of sad stories of people not hearing back from companies about their applications on LinkedIn. So we need to be really smart about how we are positioning ourselves in the market. Another thing that we need to be looking at is how could we be potentially cross-skilling or upskilling ourselves? And I think that, you know, one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is how things are moving very quickly in the tech space, and not even just the tech space. There's two areas or niche areas within the tech space where skills are really in demand. And that's always in the developer or the coding side of things, and also in the data space. So what I suggest is that we start doing some research in these spaces and thinking about the skills that we already have in that space and how we can enhance those skills or do a quick course, quick certification in order to make sure that we're always going to have a skill that is in demand. So this takes us onto our personal journey, where we're going to be talking more about, you know, your self-awareness, how you're going to craft your personal brand, because the marketplace is actually crowded at the moment. So we need to make sure that you are standing out, because no longer can we rely on job boards. Job boards, you know, the P-nets, the Career Junctions of the world, nothing against them personally, but the way recruiters are looking at the moment is that they're looking for people who are standing out online. Very few agencies, internal teams have access to their portals. They're looking at doing something that's called social recruiting. And that means that they're going to go and look on the social platforms, and it's not just LinkedIn. Facebook is becoming a very strong personal branding professional tool these days in order to be found, and people who are potentially leading groups on Meetup and running communities, because people realize that they need to, or businesses, should I say, realize they need to hire people who are coming with established networks. So Deb, anything you want to add into that? So what I've said already, or do you want to move on to our next section?
I think we can move on to our next section, but I think, you know, just to kind of reiterate what Vanessa has said, and this does fit into the next slide that I want to talk about around personal brand and knowing your strengths. It's one thing to know that data-driven decision-making is where it's at right now. But if you're like me and you're not really a numbers and data kind of person, I mean, I can analyze the information and I can present insights, and I can strategize, and I can help people to action those insights. But I'm definitely not going to be someone who loves to sit behind a computer, and I'm not going to go and learn R, and I'm not going to be creating, you know, these mega Excel spreadsheets. So what I'd like to talk about as we move on to our next slide and onto this whole personal journey is how you can actually adapt whatever is happening in the marketplace if you exercise sufficient self-awareness, how you can actually adapt and find something that speaks to what the job market and the corporate market needs right now, but that's also aligned with who you are. And I can tell you from personal experience, especially if you're in the interim management game and you get contacted to do the 6-month, 12-month, 18-month projects, a lot of times we get contacted by big blue chip companies and they offer us a ton of money, and it's so difficult to say no to the pretty shiny money and the comfort that it brings. But what I've learned, and what I'd like to invite you to do, and again, I'm speaking from a place of privilege because I know what that feast and famine feels like. And it's very, very difficult to say no thank you to the pretty shiny opportunity with big blue chip, global listed company, when you know that you need to feed your family. So if we move on to the next slide, one of the tools that I myself absolutely love using, and use this for recruitment, use this for leadership development, and use this for culture work, is a tool called Luminous Spark. I've included it in the ebook for you. You don't have to worry. There's an awesome little free app that you can download on iOS and on Android, and you can do a very quick, they have a disclaimer, they say it's low accuracy. It's really not. You can do a very quick, free 2-minute little assessment, and you get this awesome, colorful little color splash. And just to take you through the colors quickly and explain to you why this stuff is so important for you, because you're going to really be the architect of your future, and you're really going to be crafting your brand and your journey. It's important to know this stuff about yourself. And what's great about the Lumina methodology and the colors is that it's completely non-threatening. And I'd love to live in a world where on my lanyard, on my security access card, or on my LinkedIn profile somewhere is my Luminous Splash. Because if everyone just learns how to read these things, you'll know exactly how to actually start interacting with people. So Lumina is based on these 4 main colors, right? Which is yellow, red, blue, and green. Yellow really being, think sunshine, think high energy, people like me, okay? We are innovative, we have big ideas, we're strategic, we see the big picture, we sometimes connect dots that other people, haven't even seen the dots yet, and we've seen the pattern and we know what to do. Then you get your red behavior, which is a little bit competitive, a little bit cutthroat sometimes, very logical, very fact-driven, don't have time to find out how's your mother, where's my report. A lot of law firms are like this. Some of your global companies like a GE, for instance, they're kind of in that space where they've got a competitive internal culture. Our blue, people who lead with the blue color are people who are a little bit more cautious, a little bit more realistic. When I come with my big ideas, they're the people who say, Debbie, yes, but. Okay, and it's very hard for me because I feel like they're stifling me and my creativity, but I understand that for them, I'm a little bit loud and a little bit overbearing and a little bit larger than life. So it's really about meeting in the middle. And the last color that we've got there is the green, which is the people focused, the highly supportive, collaborative, accommodating types of people. And what's great about doing this little assessment for yourself and getting an idea of these colors and what, who you really are, and what resonates with you, is that you can actually go and you can translate this into a workplace culture scenario. And you can go and see, for instance, someone like me, and I speak about myself because I can speak about myself with authority. Someone like me who is a yellow-red, I don't do well in very old school hierarchical organizations where there's a lot of red tape and there's a committee for a committee to decide what we're doing next. Okay, I do great when you leave me on my own and it's a much more agile environment and I can think and I can kick ideas around. I do great with startups. I do great with creative types. And even though I've done a lot of work in the financial services space, it's not a space where I'm comfortable, because financial services, interestingly enough, if you can look at this, I'm sure by now you would have figured out financial services is very much on the blue side. So as you are embarking on this journey for yourself, get to know yourself, do your Luminous Splash, and start kind of examining your career thus far. Look at the jobs that you've held and answer questions for yourself like, what environments have you really thrived in? What environments have made you kind of shut down and not shine and not feel like the best version of yourself? what type of jobs do you love doing? You know, if you look at your work, we've all got stuff that we absolutely hate doing. For me, it's Excel spreadsheets, reports, updating, anything like that. Call me into a room and let me brainstorm and let me kick ideas around, and I'm loving it. Or get me to deliver on really tough things, and I'll do it. But when, you know, you get stuck in that analysis paralysis and you want me to update a giant spreadsheet, I just start shutting down. So as you move forward, get to know yourself really well and start doing some research on Glassdoor. Contact alumni who've worked at companies that you're interested in. Learn what you can about their culture, their environment, and find a better fit for yourself. That's really what I would like for you to get from this. Varusha, I see that you say that I sound like you. Yay, one of us, one of us. So just, you know, there's nothing wrong with any of these colors. There's no good color or bad color. There's balance in all things. It's a beautiful rainbow, and there's diversity, and we need that balance. I need that blue to ground me and, you know, keep me honest and ask me from time to time, yes, but I also need to be allowed to spread my wings. So figure out what you need, who you are, and then go and find the environment that's going to be most conducive to you being the best version of you.
So Deb, I'm just going to interrupt you there because we've got a question that's come in. So let's just answer Tandeka's question over here. So Tandeka, thanks for your question, appreciate it. And Tandeka was saying she wanted to know, what about companies that are only offering commission only, so not a permanent salary? So Deb, I'll just give my point of view quickly with this, is that, you know, it all depends on the situation that you're in at the moment, to be honest. If you can afford to only have commission, but if you're the sole breadwinner for the family, the sole person earning a salary, then it's going to be quite difficult. I mean, I've worked in commission-only roles before, but I had a very good understanding of what they were looking for, and I knew that I would be successful, and the idea of earning uncapped commission was definitely something that was quite lucrative for me, but I was in a position where I could take that role and take on a little bit of risk. So it's a very difficult question to answer, to be honest, because it really does come down to the individual and your individual situation. If you know you can crack it and you're going to do very well, go for it. If you can't and you know that you need a set amount of money every month, maybe hang out or just wait until something else comes up. Deb, I don't know what you want to say.
Yeah, completely. It is a very personal thing. And I mean, you know, myself and Vanessa can't tell anyone what to do. But if I can direct you back to Lumina, you know, so yes, some companies will use the commission only thing to kind of work you to the bone and basically snooker you, and you'll never see a cent. On the other hand, however, like Vanessa says, if you've got if you're motivated by money, and you've got a clear understanding of what you need to do, and you're not afraid of rolling up your sleeves and selling literally like you need the money, then you're going to be fine, you know. But do your research, find out, and don't let desperation push you into a place where you're not comfortable. Because I promise you, and I say this from personal experience, you will start losing your shine bit by bit. Every single day, it'll chip away more and more at you. And you will become so demotivated if you're working in a commission-only role and you're not earning commission. It's going to really send your self-confidence down into the dumps. And that in turn is going to then stop you from finding your next. So be very careful. If you are naturally introverted, a blue type of person, very cautious, not necessarily motivated by money, then maybe a comm-only role isn't, you know, your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Deb. We've also got Alexine over here commenting, saying how much she loves Lumina Spark. It's one of the best tools ever, and said it was life-changing. So thanks for your comments there. And also Spiwe said that it's definitely, you can have attributes or qualities across the luminous spark wheel. And I mean, definitely from my perspective, I'm definitely sitting somewhere between an orange and a green. So, you know, from the extroverted, but also being incredibly people focused. So absolutely. And I think it's a tool that we all need to go and test out and try out. So keep the questions rolling in. Deb, I'm going to go on to our next slide for you so that you're ready.
Yeah,
and
so I've
keep them
covered
coming.
this already. I've pretty much covered this one already. It's just, you know, this image just really speaks to me around culture and environment where you're going to thrive. For people who are a little bit more, you know, cautious and introverted and a little bit more blue, this picture is probably not going to sit well with them. The guy is wearing shorts, everyone's all chill. It looks very much like a startup kind of scenario. So it really is, I just wanted to drive home the fact that you need to be really careful. You are an architect here. You are the pilot. You're not a passenger on this journey. So get to know yourself, do the research, and almost, you know, Vanessa, you used the term earlier on about being a little bit like a sniper. You know, you've got to hone in on industries, on organizations, on networks, on opportunities that are going to enable you to be the best you. That's really the point that I'm trying to make here. And like Van was saying earlier on, it's almost like, I think a whole generation of us was taught, Vanessa, how to approach romantic relationships. You know, if we look pretty and we sit in the corner, they'll come to us. And that's very much like job boards. I think if your CV looks pretty and you list it, you know, on a job board, they might come to you, but chances are you need to really get out there. And this is just giving you a little bit of a leg up.
Absolutely. And really onto that now from a personal branding perspective, and what you can see here is that, you know, one of the most famous brands in the world, Nike, I mean, so recognizable, the famous swoosh. So what I want to talk to you about is now, how do you stand out in this crowded marketplace? So for me, your best bets and the best social platform to start really working on is LinkedIn. I mean, it's the world's oldest social networking platform. It's seen as the professional platform. And what I really encourage people to do is to start having an opinion, because people who have an opinion stand out. But the thing is that if you're not sharing your opinion, obviously in a polite way, you don't want to be ruffling any feathers or causing a scene, people don't know about you. So my advice, and I do a lot of coaching with individuals on how to, you know, raise their personal brand and all of those things, is start posting, start getting more active. You don't even need to be blogging anymore. The days of when you have to write a blog to be noticed they're kind of gone. All you can be doing now is be posting and aiming for 3 to 4 times a week on LinkedIn. So, you know, just a couple of tips around that. Rather not post over a weekend, but from a South African context, you want to be posting quite early in the morning from Monday to Thursday, you know, definitely before 10 o'clock at the latest. And what you need to be posting is something that you want to share, maybe something that's happened to you, something that went wrong and you want to maybe prevent people from going wrong in the future, a positive experience, something interesting that you learned. You know, the articles that people share do well, but you're kind of promoting someone else's content. So what I do, I always encourage people to post their own content. As I say, something that they've learned, something that they've noticed in the market, etc., etc. So, you know, the reason why I talk about this and the reason why I know that it works is it's literally how I've managed to grow my business and get it international very, very quickly, especially now that everyone's gone online. You can offer services to people anywhere in the world sitting right here from your house in South Africa. And South Africans are well known for delivering good quality work and for being incredibly hardworking. So I encourage you to work on your personal brand, but don't only focus on LinkedIn. I really encourage you to have a look at the likes of Twitter and Facebook too. There's some amazing groups on there that you can join in order to start standing out. So again, use a tool like Deb mentioned, like Luminous Spark, identify where your strengths lie, what kind of organizations you want to work for, and start positioning yourself as someone who's going to add incredible value to that organization. So you can start looking and following these companies online and start kind of making yourself known in a, in a nice way. No one likes the arrogance, but definitely by sharing and collaborating with others. What a lot of people don't realize when we use social media is it's actually all about sharing. It's not about, always being on the take and always wanting yourself. It's about putting out good content that other people can learn from and other people are drawn to you. So it's almost like you want to develop that magnetic personality, but almost to be developing it online. So when we talk about being creative when looking for jobs, is that, the good recruiters and sources out there aren't going to the job boards anymore. What we're finding is that people who've placed themselves on the job boards, they're really potentially out of work, maybe suffering from a bit of burnout. They're not really at the top of their game. Are those the A players that you want to be putting in front of hiring managers? And the truth is, we'd rather want someone who's standing out on a platform like LinkedIn, which, let's face it, is full of recruiters, but it's where you need to be if you want to connect with the right recruiter who's going to place you in that right job. So it's not only just about having, as Deb said, a really, really good, a well thought out CV. Sure, you absolutely need one of those too. But what I really recommend is start being noticed because of what you're doing. Start building communities, start building networks, start trying to present at events like this, presenting at conferences. What you're trying to do is that you're trying to develop that whole thought leadership, trusted advisor status that everyone seems to be striving for these days. So again, I emphasize, get your CV professionally built and put together so that it looks great, but then also make sure that you're going to be noticed on social platforms, because that's where people are going to be looking first. So again, LinkedIn is a phenomenal tool for this. Obviously, there is also Facebook. We need to make sure, I'm sure that we're all adults on the call. I don't need to tell you how you should be behaving on social media. Those days are long gone. We know we shouldn't be posting extreme views, etc., etc. Just behave like a human being and behave like an adult, and you should be fine. So just remember that this is probably the first place that people are going to start noticing you, where previously it used to be the CV. But also what is becoming an incredibly powerful tool in the recruitment space is word of mouth. So when you leave companies, make sure you're not burning bridges, make sure you've delivered a good service, make sure that you're keeping in contact with your colleagues, because you never know when something might happen and you might need to lean on those colleagues either to be a reference, or when everyone's left the company where you all worked, to maybe send your CV into the HR department on your behalf. So it's always good to make sure that you maintain good relationships.
Yeah.
And this boils down to networking. So Deb, do you want to talk to us about networking a bit?
Well, it's about smart networking, right?
Totally.
And I think Van, I think you've covered most of this. Just again, for folks who maybe don't know myself and Vanessa, the way that we met was actually through strong personal brands and through smart networking. Vanessa and I met each other through the global Disrupt HR community. And all of the work that I've personally gotten in the last, I would say, 3 years has solidly been because of my personal brand. And I think we're not advocating that everyone must try and become a thought leader and write a book and be out there and become famous. That doesn't have to be your path. What Vanessa is saying, and we've put it in the ebook for you, is just a couple of prompts in terms of figuring out who you are, what your strengths are, what sets you apart from other people in your profession, in your industry, and really start playing to your strengths. And then from a smart networking perspective, it's about going to find, especially on LinkedIn, go and find these communities. If you type into the search bar, I don't know, data analytics in financial services, I promise you, you will find some community, some group that you can join where you can, make contacts, you can learn things, you can share your views, and you can start building up your personal brand. So don't wait for the world to change and wait for the annual conference away. Kind of get your name out there, up your game on LinkedIn big time. For me personally, if I if I know that I've got a call with someone or I'm meeting someone, the first place that I go and look is LinkedIn. I go and Google them. And if they're not on LinkedIn, then I think, but why? You know, what kind of a fly-by-night show is this? So it really can actually damage your chances if you're not networking smart. So as Vanessa said, get yourself out there, be clear on who you are, and be authentic, because people can pick up when you're not being authentic. Don't try and fit into a mold because you think it's going to get you a job. It might, but you're not going to be happy for very long. I can promise you that.
Absolutely.
So
and Deb, we've just got another question. I just want to, let's have a look at this question. It comes from Angela, and it says, do recruiters consider recommendations, skill confirmations on your LinkedIn? So let me answer that one first. Recommendations, yes, because recommendations come from someone that you've worked with and someone who's willing to put their name to something nice that they have written about you. Okay. So definitely go for recommendations. If you don't have recommendations on your LinkedIn profile, I suggest that you go and ask for some, because that's the only way that you're going to get them, to be honest. You just need to go to your LinkedIn profile.
Don't feel weird asking for them.
Exactly, because all you're doing is when you ask for your recommendation, you say politely, I'm looking to grow my online brand. I'm looking for something new in the market. Please, will you give me a recommendation? And ask as many people as you feel that you would be able to give you a solid recommendation. As for the skills confirmations, those are called endorsements on LinkedIn. I wouldn't worry with those. To be honest, the recommendations carry far more weight than an endorsement. And I can say this because I get endorsed by people living in Pakistan who I've never met for my recruiting skills, because all they want is for me to be able to find them a new role. So the last two questions are this: the training you do on LinkedIn Learning. Okay, so any training that you do is better than doing no training at all, is my answer to that. So if you can only afford to do the free LinkedIn Learning courses, by all means, please add them to your LinkedIn profiles. However, if you can get, the certification through like a Microsoft or a Get Smarter or something like that, do that. So it all depends on what you can afford. Again, it comes down to the individual, but definitely some learning is better than no learning. Okay. It's not very weird asking for your recommendations, to be honest. I have just put links to our LinkedIn profiles. You can see that there's quite a few there, but they really are brilliant. They recruiters look for these kind of recommendations, because again, the person who is giving you the recommendation is putting their name to it. Deb, anything else that you want to add there before we move on to the third section?
I don't think so. I think, we've given people so much to kind of chew over, and I think they'd like us to get into our little checklist, and just kind of tie everything together now, and then maybe take some questions. Look, Van and I live this stuff, so we can talk about it for hours.
All day. John's just asked for a link to our ebook. So as we've got 10 minutes left, I just want to put the link into our chat. You are, there it is. You're more than welcome to access it. And if you want to access it now and ask us some questions, you're more than welcome to do so. So let's just have a look at our next section, which is about the strategy to reset and rejuvenate. And a lot of this is spoken to in the ebook. But Deb, do you want to just start with this as we come to an end, or should I say, would you like to conclude with this?
Just to kind of, circle back to everything. Oh my God, that's such a cliche. Let's circle back. Let's put a pin in it. If we move on to the next slide, if we give you a checklist, I know some of you really want a checklist. We can't tell you hard and fast things and guarantee where you're going to get a job. But if we have to give you a to-do list in terms of how you start tonight, where you are, and you embark on this journey to being the architect of your future. It starts obviously with self-awareness. I've given you the info in the ebook. Go do the assessments, go learn about yourself. Just learn a little bit about your personal values and your goals. Is family super important to you, or are you cool with working 80-hour weeks? All of those things have an impact on the kind of job that you're looking for, the kind of organization you're looking at, or whether you're going to start a business. It's awesome having your own business, but it's scary as hell, and you work really long hours as well. The personal branding, like Vanessa has said, and I know that Carmen did a masterclass on this as well, Carmen Murray, earlier on as part of the Job Reset Fest. So go and do everything that you can, go and follow those prompts, go and build out, you know, go and find those words that describe you, and go and find your people. And Van said such a funny thing the other day, Van, when you said about updating your headshot and making sure that it's not
really
you from 20 kgs ago.
Yeah, exactly. So something that I've recently done, not because of the 20 kilograms, I can assure you, but because no one ever wants to have their photograph taken. But I cannot tell you the difference it's made to allowing me to update my website, because now I've got more photos of myself, update my social profiles, and the feedback has been really, really positive. So you don't need to get all dolled up. I'm not one of those people that always, you know, wears makeup and has my hair perfectly done. I had my headshots done like you're probably going to find me, which is how I look now after a long day of work and a run that started at 5 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. But you can start with a decent selfie in front of good light, you know, just make sure that it's not, and I mean, don't use like a random picture from you at your mate's wedding and then someone who's trying to figure out which one of the 5 are you, you know. So just get a decent picture. And then very, very important is do a social media sweep. Van, I know that you've got a term for this. I almost want to call it like a social media audit.
Yeah, it's like you basically need to check out your digital footprint or do a social media audit on yourself. So pretty much just go and Google yourself, because you want to be in charge of what your personal brand is. You don't want the internet to dictate what your personal brand is.
Yeah, and just you know, as an aside, some very smart recruiters will use tools like they will go and find candidates who have written Amazon book reviews. They will find candidates who are following certain brands on Pinterest. So just go and do that, like do that sweep, do that audit. You know, because
and also, sorry, Deb, I just want to comment on something here as well. You're updating your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile must match your CV, but I encourage you to make it really keyword heavy. So, you know, you got to think of the buzzwords. People don't only search under job titles, because when it comes to naming conventions around job titles, it really can be something that's a really gray area. For example, are you looking for a data scientist, a data engineer, a data analyst? You know, it really is such a big minefield out there. So people are going to look for profiles that talk about
We lost Vanessa.
to your profile. You can also, sorry, am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, good. Don't only add to your profile and put in, you know, that you are, should I say, looking for a job title as a noun, add in a verb. Okay.
Yes. Also, obviously update your resume, like Van said. It needs to be topical. I think one of the bad things that, especially those of us who are a little bit older, on the other side of 40, we tend to have this massive long CV with the 10 pages. And I'm sure Van can vouch for the fact that no recruiter is reading the freaking 10-page CV.
It's like the second page of Google. Go and hide the body there.
Exactly. So update that. There's some awesome websites where you can go that are resume builders, and that will help you with the keywords and the right things to use. And you'll also find Microsoft has got a bit of a link with LinkedIn as well. If you start doing your resume on Word, it will actually ask whether you want to import from LinkedIn or you want to sync. So go and do some of those things, definitely. Our next step there for you is the networking. Find your tribe. So those networks, the thought leaders, follow those people, actively, consistently participate in the world. So post your own content, repost informative things, add value, be part of the dialogue, comment, like, share, you know, just be part of the talk. And follow people that you can actually learn something from. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You always want to be learning. And then my final advice, you know, I think my theme for this year has very much been think differently. It's not something that I have difficulty doing, because I'm, in Lumina terms, I'm yellow. But I think for all of us on here today is think differently. If you've been stuck around, you know, where do I find a job? Maybe you shouldn't be looking for a permanent job. Maybe you should be looking for contract work. Maybe you should be looking at starting a service. Maybe you should be looking at teaching what you know. Anyone can teach a course on Udemy. You literally need a smartphone and a video and some social media accounts. You know, you could be teaching English right now as a stopgap while you're improving your skills. There's so much that you can do. Just think a little bit differently.
Awesome. There's quite a few questions and comments coming through, all very positive, Deb. So I've been asked a couple of times about, whether, I could help with resumes. It's, again, I'm not the detailed spreadsheet kind of girl either, but I can put you in touch with people who can assist with that. So just pop me a message on LinkedIn. I do encourage you to connect with both Deb and myself on LinkedIn. We're constantly posting content around this so that we can continue to assist you and, help you to grow your personal brands. So yeah. I know we've got a few minutes, sorry, David and Deb.
I just wanted to mention that there's a couple of recruiters on here as well. So I invited a couple of recruiters. I invited my friend Sean Raath from Humanity. Elixine, I know, is a career recruiter. I don't know if Nikki is here from Oracle, but really also try and, hi Ellie, try and connect with, other people on this call. This might be part of starting your tribe. Everyone who's here wanted to be here to learn or share something today. So you never know who might point you towards your next opportunity.
Absolutely. It's all about who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, I'm inspired. I'm sitting here. I don't really have a lot to say, which most people who know me will find that rather unusual. And what I'm inspired by is the spirit of Vanessa and Deborah, and the Job Reset Fest is alive and well in the chat. And Vanessa, one thing you said earlier, which I'm really struck by, and I think that's the golden thread of this as well, is that we should constantly be asking ourselves and sense checking ourselves of what can we contribute, how can we help, as opposed to what can I take and how can I enrich myself.
So there's almost like a ratio, David, that I've learned through this process, and that is working on, and you decide the ratio. It's 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, 8 to 1, and you give out 5 posts that are going to help other people. You share and collaborate, and then on your 7th post you have your ask, and that builds such credibility, such trust, such authenticity that it has worked for me. It's worked for me for years, and I encourage everyone to adopt that attitude.
Yeah, for sure. And Sam's question about, if I'm looking for work, should I make that known? And I'm so glad that Vanessa said yes, because what it speaks to is authenticity, honesty, but also a level of humility and vulnerability. So it's easy to have the perfect profile shot and the perfectly crafted, demonstrated history in X, Y, and Z on your profile. But, who are you really is what most people will be interrogating during the recruitment process, during interviews, and getting to know us and to see if there's a fit. We're on time now, but I just wanted to say that also the commission question I thought was very important. And while there's never a magic bullet or perfect theory for anything, what else? I made a note here, slavery versus shared value with regard to commission. And I think that,
absolutely.
Clearly those two things are rather different. And again, it's difficult if one is unemployed and desperately needs income. One's levels of discernment don't change, but one's levels of desperation do, right?
Yeah.
And the difference there is that also don't assume that a com only situation would be solely serving the organization, because the shared value model could be extremely compelling, where you and the organization are sharing in the success of your delivery and contribution, and you and theirs. So there was just something that I thought I would contribute. So
thank you, David. Good point. I like it.
I mean, the spirit of the chat is just, it's inspiring. And I hope that everybody, I think that this is indicative of the Reset Fest and what we were, you know, our objective for it is to also create an environment where it's not all about perfect. It's not all about, you know, having the right qualification and the right haircut and so on. It's about who are you showing up. And,
yeah.
You know, this evening is a wonderful thing. You've taken time out, you're here, and hopefully, you know, everybody on the call has been able to learn and share something that they can use, not just to, you know, for the next resume revision and so on, but ideally for the rest of your lives. So, yeah, I mean, Vanessa and Deborah, just thank you beyond your time for your insights and your fullness for people. It's completely palpable. And you know, you've put your details in the chat for people to reach out. Your URLs are at the bottom of your beautiful images. Deborah, it's deeply unfortunate that your camera wasn't working because of your vibrant face. So yeah, we'll start to bring it to a close now, but please feel free to reach out to Vanessa, Deborah, to Henley as well, wherever you need assistance or to have a conversation about this, because I think the principle here is that we're not trying to save the world or cover everything within 50 or 60 minutes. You know, life is a bit more complex. So please continue the conversation. We definitely will. And then we've got one more session day after tomorrow. It's going to be the final one. The title is Best Practice in Corporate Reputation and Stakeholder Management. And it's with Professor Kevin Money, who is one of our colleagues. He's South African, but he lives and works in the UK. So he works out of our campus in Greenlands in the UK. And he's a professor of reputation. And a very, very smart and insightful guy who will impart some great insights for us, I'm sure. So join us. The time is from 9 until 11:30 on Saturday morning. So tomorrow we have a day of rest, and then we're back on Saturday for the final edition of the Job Reset Fest. Thank you so much, Vanessa and Deborah. Graham, to you and your team, you always allow us just to arrive and go click, and everything is taken care of. We really appreciate that. Mamadise and the marketing team, thanks as ever for doing all the heavy lifting in the background that makes us all able to show up and you know, do what we do most of the time with finesse. So be well, have a good night, and I just want to conclude with something I saw just now on Instagram from Ray Dalio, and he says, if you are open-minded enough and determined, you can get virtually anything you want. I'll say it again. If you are open-minded enough and determined, you can get virtually anything you want. And so I'll leave it at that. Be well, have a great night, and we'll see you soon for sure.